Hello, RemCAD artists. This is Richard Downs, and I'm going to discuss a simple way to start generating concepts. This little informative video is actually applied to my Illustration 1 class, but it can be used in any of your classes. It's just another approach to getting ideas out quickly. I'm teaching this class and directed themes and illustration this semester, so you'll be seeing this video in your directed themes class also. So let's get started. In this class, our first assignment is for you guys to select one of the short phrases below to illustrate only in black and white. You can also select one of the fortune cookies phrases, and it's in this PDF down here. So basically, I am just going to select one of these just randomly, and let's just use the DNA test opened a Pandora's box as our concept for today's little thing. So let's go over to Photoshop. So what I've developed was this silly little chart called the Conceptual Pyramid, and as an illustrator, my entire job has been using other people's writings to basically come up with an illustration that somehow is entertaining enough for the readers to read the story after they see my illustration. Now, your illustration doesn't have to solve the entire story because that's what the story is for. But your illustration should be something that's really fun to look at. Could be a mysterious piece that creates some type of metaphor or symbolism, or it just can be fun to look at. But whatever it needs to be it needs to be entertainment and awesome. So let's say I was given a story on Alzheimer's. I would read the story, probably highlight different lines in the story, but really when it comes down to it, Alzheimer's is a disease of the mind and the brain. So, of course, the mind is something different than the brain, but they're all the language. So what I do is I make this chart. I type out or I write mind or brain, and then I'd come up with the cliches. The cranium, the head, memory, brain, Freud, thought, recall, IQ. And then from there, this is supposed to work in a way that you should be able to, pull, that's too big, pull other words out of these words, like from the cranium, you could have, the shape of the brain, all of this, and they kind of should, in theory, create this giant pyramid starting with just the brain or the mind. So now remember, isolated symbols, the thinker, eyes, when they're combined with another symbol, they create what is called a metaphor. And that's what we're trying to get to. Now, both of these classes, my whole career has been pretty much in the conceptual illustration department. Although I've done children's book and stuff like that. But most of the time, it's clever concepts. So, and that's what I've dealt with my entire career, working in newspapers. And really, I'm what's called an editorial illustrator, which is illustrating for newspapers and magazines. I've done some advertising. I've done some children's book. I've done corporate work for, big corporations. And I've done a lot of technology, illustration, and science and things like that. So this will be posted along with the video. But let's say we are talking about the DNA. One of these phrases, the DNA test opened a Pandora's box. So first thing you do, you go over to some type of, word program or just jot it into your sketchbook. And then I'd start with, let's let's see, we're going to go to a new layer. Of course, I have an older version of Photoshop. And so what is DNA? Then I'd go onto the internet. The internet is my favorite thing. And I use Google image search for everything. I'd look up DNA and I'm not a scientist. They don't want a scientist to illustrate this story. They want an artist. They want an artist's vision. So I basically look up DNA. I'd read a little bit about it, see what it's about. I have a general idea from just a layman's concept. But I would look for symbols, stuff that looks cool, the cell, the DNA. I'd also look up Pandora's box, and then I would start my pyramid out. The cliches would be the double helix, the human body. The helix looks like a slinky. The helix looks like a spring. What if the spring was, and you could just keep driving that idea out, because we use our brains to come up with concepts, but they're basically around language. They start at the language level. Your stories start at language. Your assignments start with language. And then they move to images and symbols. Let's look at a few illustrators that I really like. And both of these classes, you can approach these classes as like a conceptual illustrator, like this piece right here by Edel Rodriguez. What does this symbol say to you? What does this image say? Each one of you out there listening to this should think about this. What is going on in this image? It's really interesting when I have an on-ground class, I can show something like this and people will say, oh, I see a skull. Okay, what else do you see? Well, I see a cowboy hat. What's a cowboy hat? Well, cowboy hat can symbolize Texas, okay? Why is this person wearing a tie? Oh, he's maybe a corporate person. What does the skull have to do with it? This is language, two symbols put together, a cowboy hat and a skull. Those are two symbols. And when you bring them together, that becomes the metaphor, and that becomes the story. Now, I try to promote you guys working simply or with, not too complex. Now, my work has been super complex throughout my whole career, so I should be careful about saying you guys should be working simple. But really, when you look at Edel Rodriguez, who's one of the most popular illustrators working today, you'll see his work is pretty simple, and it's very consistent with color. Okay, let's go to Adam McCauley. He's also a friend of mine. He does a lot of children's books, just tons of children's books. But again, look at the metaphors. Look at the symbols that he puts into his work. Let's just pick one. Okay, like this. Here's a woman slipping on a banana, but she's not really slipping on a banana, is she? This could be something about healthcare. It could be, it could be anything, but there's a stairway. Okay, but she's going down the stairway. These are all words that turn into symbols and metaphors. Okay, so he's got tons of stuff. But then you come to an illustrator like Vivian Flesher. She's an amazing artist. She is also a friend of mine. She actually illustrated the love stamp for the United States, which is just that bouquet of flowers. Let's look at love stamp because it's so cool. There it is right there. Vivian told me the story about getting this job. She was contacted by the United States Postal Service, their design department, to do a love stamp. And when she turned in her sketches, she met with the art director, and she had all these sketches that were just little pastel paintings. Well, the art director said, yeah, we want to use this one. This one we really like. And she goes, okay, well, I'll bring back the final, on the due date, which is Friday. And the art director said, no, I just want to use this. She said, what? You want to use my sketch? They bought the sketch directly on the day of the meeting for the sketches. An amazing story, an amazing artist. Now, you don't have to make complex images. I mean, you don't have to make conceptual illustrations in these classes. You may just want to do portraits, but it is so much more fun, one of her pieces, with a little bit of concept, like this one right here. Look at a snake. A beautifully drawn face, but a simplified snake around the face. What does that mean? And this says the temptations of private equity. You know, this is talking about finance, but it's showing a snake. The snake, you know, can symbolize finance. Here she is actually holding her flower. Okay, so let's get back to what we are working on, which is the fortune cookie assignment. Now, the fortune cookie assignment is very cool. I give it to my on-ground classes, and in this class, you don't need to put the text in, but I'm trying to work with, this is a beginning design class at a junior college. And this artist put, a letter of great importance may reach you any day now. So he went through ideas, any day, the hourglass. What does the hourglass symbolize? The hourglass symbolizes time. Any day, which is time. And he did this really cool, you know, image of all these letters. This woman, she didn't write down her fortune cookie, but it was something about being powerless, and she talked about, or something about the key to your future. And I guess colibri is Spanish for hummingbird, and arana is spider. And the hummingbird is so small it can be killed by a spider, but this hummingbird has killed the spider. So the hummingbird is now in the powerful position. This was a watering can with an hourglass on it, or a clock with the dollar symbol being the little holes that the water comes out. And this is Chinese for something about you know, let's say money or something like that. So, you know, both of these classes are going to be built around sort of conceptual, but you don't have to entirely be conceptual in these classes. Maybe some of you just want to paint, and you know, there's a lot of illustration out there that is just awesome paintings to look at. So both of these classes are going to be a lot of fun, and keep the energy on it, because you can fall behind real fast here at RimCAD. I want you to do really good work, and really good work requires time. And stay inspired, keep learning, and remember, when you're doing your sketches, I would prefer, if it, you know, some of these, if it says you're supposed to do 9 sketches, I don't want to have 9, you know, sort of half-baked ideas. I'd rather have 3 really good ideas, and we'll talk about this. And also remember, a lot of you have taken my classes. I'm a stickler for good photography. And also on your sketches, it's great to bundle them together into one file to show me. And remember, hypothetically, I am your art director. So what you want to do is you want to make my job as easy as possible for me. That's what I do for my art directors. I bundle sketches into one big file. I make things really simple. I take good photographs and scans. I make their job as easy as possible, just for them to just go, yeah, we hired the right guy. Okay, so have a great session at RimCAD, and have a great weekend. Okay, take care, and we will see you in the LMS. Bye-bye.